Okay.
Sure. So basically what we've done from the beginning there, we knew that this position was not lighting in the lamp. So one of these two lamps or this ballast that was in there is going to be the problem. To determine which one it was, we took a known good ballast from over here that was working these two lamps, put it over in this position. So then if this known good ballast works over here, then we know it was one of these two lamps. If it doesn't light up right now, in the next few seconds or next 15-20 seconds, then we'll know that it had to have been one of these lamps. So if the ballast is good and just one lamp fails, typically it'll turn the other lamp off also. There are some revisions of ballast that'll run a single lamp. Most of them won't. Even the ones that they can fail in a way that it'll turn them both off. So just because two lamps are out doesn't necessarily mean it's the ballast. It could be just one of the lamps or both of the lamps. So the situation that we're doing here, once we determine, and it looks like it's not going to start back up, it looks like it's probably one of these lamps. So to figure out which one it is, I'll unplug one of the ones from over here. I'll unplug the power to this ballast card first. I'll move this known good lamp, because we know it's working over here. We can see the lights on. And we'll move it over and pair it one at a time with one of these until we get this ballast to start working. And then once we do, we know the one that we paired it with is the good lamp, and the other one must have been the bad lamp.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it's going to light. I'll give it a little bit more time, but...
Yeah. And we have plenty of lamps, too.
Okay, good.
If we needed to get that far, we can change those out.
Sure. Ballasts are quick and easy to replace, but they're also more expensive than a lamp, so it's always better if it is a lamp.
And does it make a big difference if that thing is like totally flush seated, or
no, I mean you probably want it in enough to where you can put the cover on, because you've got to have them pretty much all the way in. Now if you push them in too far, you'll notice this little thing right here, this plastic piece can bend.
Yeah.
That's our control plug. So you have your power plug here, the orange one here. This is the control plug. The control plug is lamp status back to our EcoTouch controller. It also shows, it also communicates what ballast power we're supposed to run at. So if it says, okay, we're ramping down in power, we're going from 100% down to 50%, it'll tell it where we need to be and power the ballast appropriately to the lamp. And then you got your odd number lamp and your even number lamp, and that's the only plugs that you have for it. But yeah, if you push it in too far, it'll start to bend that. Well, you see it's pretty much touching it, and that's all the way in. But I mean, sometimes it sticks. You'll see, like we mentioned a moment ago, it's hard to do get them in and out on the end, because this whole rack, the way it's designed, it's got more bend in the middle, so it's easier to get those in and out, and it's kind of tight right there in the ends. So you got to kind of give it a little more muscle. So yeah, it doesn't look like we're going to start here. So I'll take off the even number one since it's the closest to this guy here. And then I'm just going to move this known good lamp. So I'll pop it out of its clip. That's okay to run them temporarily like that when you're testing it, but once you put it back, you want to pop it back in. It's just grounding the shielding. Get that plug back in. Let's see what we get out of that one.
And if the lamps are good, you're saying that ballast should light up. Is that
correct? Yep. It's kind of hard to see with the sun on it right now, but as it starts to warm up, you'll see these two little lights start to come on and get brighter and brighter and brighter. That means it's about to strike the lamp. It's going through its preheat phase. So it preheats the filament down there, and then it strikes, and there's mercury inside, and it turns into a gas, and then it's disinfected. And then whenever it shuts down, it almost immediately brings the gas back down into these little amalgam spots that are at the bottom of the lamp.
Yeah.
You probably saw those little spots. They're supposed to be at the 6 o'clock position.
Yeah. I think we kind of recognize that they have to be down there, but is that just chemistry? Why they got to be at the bottom? Or?
Well, that's a spot where the mercury has to collect back down to. So it somehow is drawn to those amalgam spots. So instead of having free-flowing, rolling mercury like you might see if you break a thermometer or something, it solidifies down into the spots and hardens.
Okay.
And then we need it to collect in that spot, because if you have it, say, 180 out, say it's at the 12 o'clock position instead of the 6 o'clock position, then it won't collect that the way it should, and it'll kind of splatter along the inside of it. You'll start to see little speckles all over the place. It burns up the mercury, and it's not as effective. It may still light for a while, and it might still do some disinfection, but the intensity is going to be a lot lower than it would be. It won't last. It won't last quite as long. All right, so it looks like this is still not working for us. So I think it's probably this lamp.
Okay.
Probably the number 3 lamp, but to make sure, just a little more time. We may find that it's both lamps, but that's probably not the case.
Yeah.
So we'll plug this guy in here. So now we just have what was the even number moved over here, and then this one's still from over there.
Okay.
So now we've tested both lamps after this test. Except I'm gonna give it a little more time because I had plugged it and plugged it right back in. And as we mentioned earlier, we want to make sure it goes through that shutdown process. 15, 20, or maybe 20 or 30 seconds is usually all it takes.
To just like discharge whatever's in there, or
It won't actually dissipate all the power, because you've probably noticed before. Somebody here has probably been through this before.
Yeah.
There's capacitors on these boards. These guys are here, and that'll hold a charge. So even though you've unplugged everything, you can reach in there, grab it, and it'll still shock you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's always fun.
yeah, I don't think it's gonna kill anybody with a strong ticker, but it's not comfortable. It'll toss it across the room.
Yeah.
If you're not careful. It gets me every now and then. I'm always like, ooh, I hate that.
Yeah. Always a good party favor, though, huh? Caps?
Yeah.
Not our big ones, but just as smaller than these ones here. I blew one up, and kind of like these guys right here. And
Pretty cool.
yeah.
The big ones that we got in the stations, we were 4 of them up one time. It looked like they had a party. Because there's so much paper on the inside.
Yeah.
It literally just looks like white confetti everywhere.
How did you guys do that?
I don't know what she was doing. They were just all bad.
Oh, jeez.
Turn it back on and blew up.
Out here, but there's also LEDs that light up in the middle of these boards. You might notice as the sun's not in the way, or if maybe in the evening time, as it goes through its startup process, a series of clicks and ticks, and then it changes LEDs that you'll see kind of way up in the middle of it. And that's usually a good sign that there's either a bad ballast or a bad flex board, which is the one that runs underneath here. It's kind of hard to see, but all these power and control plugs come from one flex board for each rack of 6 ballasts. If that position is burnt, then it gets no power to it, and it's not going to work at all. So I can't really see if there's LEDs lighting back there because it's so bright out here.
Yeah.
But it might be, since we put a known good ballast over here and it's not working over here, and doesn't seem to be bringing either one of the lamps on, unless both of those lamps are bad, then it could be the flex board. It's not powering it correctly.
Okay. That's
But I feel like I'm hearing it tick. But it's kind of hard because we have other failures in here. It's clicking as it's trying to restrike the ones that aren't on.
Yeah. So from where you're standing now, is that bank A or bank B?
This is bank A.
Okay.
So A module 1, A module 2, B module 1, B module 2. And lamps 1 through 12 across for each one of those. Alright, so that doesn't necessarily give us any answers. These lamps strike again over here after doing that. Very, very rarely, but I've seen it happen before. Whenever you're doing this troubleshooting, whatever the problem was might actually affect another component. So say this flex board was bad, and it was powering the ballast card incorrectly, and we moved a good ballast card over to this position, we could have possibly damaged the ballast. And if that's the case, if something like that happens while I'm troubleshooting, then we'll set out a replacement, of course, because I did it. But It's kind of necessary in the troubleshooting process, unfortunately. It doesn't happen very often, but you may even have a ballast that's filled in a way that it damages the lamp when it tries to strike it. So you start moving good lamps around to try to test it, and you could damage something good. But it doesn't happen very often. But it's something to keep in mind. If things aren't adding up, then maybe that happened. Like if you start doing the troubleshooting and it's not making sense, then maybe something like that happened in the middle of it.
Shit happens though, right?
Yeah. So I'm going to get a fluke out, and you can actually test across these filaments to see if they're open or if they're burnt. So basically what you're looking at, if you have a lamp, you've got a filament at each end of the lamp.
Mm-hmm.
At the one end that the connector plugs into, you've got 4 prongs that stick out in a diamond shape.
Right.
And the connector plugs into that, lamp cable plugs into that, comes over here to the ballast, these ballast plugs here. So those 4 pins that come out of it, 2 of them go to this filament right here on this end, and 2 of them go through wires that go down to the filament at the other end of the lamp. So those are these 4 wires here essentially. So these 2 next to each other are one filament at one end of the lamp. These 2 are the filament at the other end of the lamp. And you'll see there's it skips one. So it goes 1 and 2, and then there's it skips 3, and then 4 and 5. And if you look at the wires they have, they're numbered on the actual conductor itself.
Yeah.
So it goes 1, 2 on 1 and 2, skips 3, and then wires 3 and 4 go on 4 and 5.
Okay.
And so if you test resistance across these 2 and then across those 2, sometimes it'll tell you if either it's not plugged in correctly or if there's a problem with the filament or maybe the lamp connector. So I'll grab my meter real quick and do some quick checks.
What's the ideal range for resistance?
It's supposed to be about 1 to 1.5 ohms. But usually if it's failed, it's really, really high. It's like ohms or mega ohms, something to that effect. Usually don't see it just drift off a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's pretty high. It's in the kilo ohms there. That one's not even reading. So, try this one too. That's probably okay there. That's not. Yeah, so there's something going on with these lamps.
Okay.
Okay.